We have watched this state become essentially unlivable for working class people, and it makes me deeply angry. My name is Graham Platner, and I'm running for U.S. Senate in Maine to defeat Susan Collins. I'm not fooled by this fake charade of Collins' deliberations and moderation. The difference between Susan Collins and Ted Cruz is at least Ted Cruz is honest about selling us out and not giving a damn. People know that the system is screwing them. They know it in their bones.
That guy is dope, okay? He's a populist outsider by the name of Graham Platner. And he just announced a Senate run against Republican Senator Susan Collins in Maine. And you think Democratic donors would be like lining up to fundraise for him, especially following the years that they have failed in unseating Susan Collins. But they're actually helping Susan Collins in an effort to defeat him. It's kind of incredible. So in a piece titled "Susan Collins to Get Hollywood Treatment at Fundraiser Featuring Democrats," we have learned that big name Democratic donors are essentially throwing fundraisers for her and helping to fund her campaign so she gets reelected. So she is going to come to Los Angeles and destroy all of our commutes on September 26th. And that's according to an invitation that was reviewed by the Times. The woman hosting the fundraiser is actually a longtime liberal donor by the name of Sherry Lansing, who, by the way, used to be the chairwoman over at Paramount Pictures. And she hosts these fundraisers in her swanky Bel Air home, again, clogging up traffic and making Angelenos miserable so the rich can buy their politicians. Casey Wasserman is the sports and entertainment mogul and chairman of the Los Angeles Olympics Organizing Committee. And he too will essentially co-host this event. So before I go on any further, okay, before I talk about what a wonderful ad that was, because who doesn't love watching Platner, do like manly lumberjack things? What are your thoughts on this, Jake?
I'm pro lumberjack things.
Same.
Okay, so first of all, as soon as I read about him, I thought maybe we need to Platner this guy in the Senate. And Rebellion PAC is reaching out to him literally as we speak. So the reason I like him is because he's no holds barred. And I've been waiting for that for 20 straight years. Number two, he is our kind of Democrat. What does that mean? That means he's a populist, but that doesn't stick with wherever you think someone on the left should be on the old school political spectrum. So he picks and chooses his topics. For example, he loves universal health care and thinks that we should of course have it, right? He hates the endless wars. I mean, he's perfect in that populist way. But if you're looking for him to be progressive all the way down the social issues, you're not. That's not what you're likely to get. Okay, so and if you think, oh, that sucks, I hate it. He's disagreeing with me on ideology 2.5%. All right, well then he's not the guy for you. And by the way, no one is. Okay, but if you like populism and you hate money in politics, this is the brother. Okay, now to the more important thing. So he's a great candidate. That's awesome. But why are Democrats backing Susan Collins?
Yeah, why?
They've been trying to get rid of her theoretically for 2 decades now. Actually even longer. As long as I've been covering politics, Democrats have been talking about, oh, we're gonna get Susan Collins the next time, right? And remember they raised like $4 million for a provisional candidate last time, et cetera. They were so gung-ho. No, because it's the uniparty, guys. They're, as we've told you a million times, and we told you 20 years ago, right? We've been telling you this, and now the whole world is beginning to catch up to us. They don't really mean it. There's only a couple of things they care about. Do they care about some of the social issues? Sure, right? That's why they're Democratic donors, right? But when you get to 2 issues that they care about, they're gonna be outside the populist bandwagon completely. So the Democratic donors are gonna split, I don't know if it's in half or if a majority of them are gonna go against the populists and flip over to the Republicans. Because the 2 issues they care most about is taxes. You better not, hey, don't touch my money, okay? Yep. And so in favor of corporations and all that.
Neoliberalism.
Yeah, and number 2 is of course Israel. And so a lot of the populists are, or almost all of them are saying, let's not fund Israel anymore because it's a genocide and it's terrible. And they're like, what did you say? That's it, we're going over the Republicans. Who cares about the Democrats? Wait, I thought you guys said unity. You guys were the ones yelling at us when we were supporting Bernie Sanders because you said, oh, unity, blah, blah. No. The minute Israel and neoliberalism is touched, they're gone. They're now instantly Republicans. Told you.
So just real quick, going back to the co-host of this fundraiser, Casey Wasserman. So Wasserman is a longtime Democratic donor as well, but he has taken steps to ingratiate himself with the right as of late, giving Olympic medals to President Trump at the White House this month and donating to some Republicans during the election cycle. And I think Cenk's analysis here is 100% correct. When we talk about the uniparty, it doesn't mean that both parties are exactly the same. Where they tend to differ are the social issues, and we shouldn't minimize those social issues, they're important. But if you ask me, what's even more important are the two issues of the economy and war. And there's a lot of agreement with the two parties when it comes to those two issues. So with that in mind, a person close to Lansing and Wasserman, the two hosts for this fundraiser in Los Angeles, said they decided to participate in the fundraiser because it was set up as a bipartisan host committee with 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans. So a guy named Harry Sloan is one of the Republicans hosting the event and is the former chairman of MGM. The other is Michael Burns, vice chairman of the Lionsgate Film and Television Studio. So what are people paying to attend this event, this big fundraiser for Republican Senator Susan Collins from Maine? Tickets for the reception run from $3,500 to $10,000, which isn't the worst. Like, we've covered political fundraisers where like a seat at the table is $150,000, right? So believe it or not, this is on the lower end of the scale. Clearly, this event was planned before Graham Platner joined the race, so I want to be clear about that. But he is now one of 6 declared Democratic primary candidates in this race for the Senate seat in Maine. Governor Janet Mills is expected to jump in soon as well. So it's not like the Democratic donors attending the fundraiser had like no choice but to back Collins. Now let's get back to Platner and who he is, what he represents. So he's a 40-year-old Army and Marine veteran, pretty impressive, who did 4 combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's an oyster farmer who was born and raised in Sullivan, Maine, so he's a local, and he's running on a platform of universal health care, housing affordability, and ending US involvement in foreign wars. And as someone who would serve in a Senate seat, having that position is incredibly important. Platner really thoughtfully explained to NBC News just how his experience in the military helped shape his political positions. He said, quote, "When I joined the Marine Corps, I joined up because I really truly believed in the American project. I wanted to fight for something I loved and that I thought was good in Iraq and Afghanistan. I watched both failed policies, failed strategies, failed tactics being used over and over and over again. There's a point where you have to start asking yourself, what is the point of this? Why are you doing this? And when I went back as a security contractor in 2018, when I began to realize, what I began to realize is that I was just watching vast amount of taxpayer money getting put into the pockets of defense contractors, of security contractors, of this whole apparatus that almost seemed to exist merely to take taxpayer money and put it into somebody's private bank account. And in seeing that up close for a while, it turned me into a deeply, deeply cynical and angry guy. From that, I began to kind of look at our larger political system, our larger economic system, and you just begin to see the same exact thing. So if he manages to win the Democratic primary, the general will be incredibly tough. So Collins has managed to essentially stave off previous Democratic challengers, even in blue Maine. In her last campaign in 2020, she beat Democratic opponent Sarah Gideon by more than 8 percentage points, even as Donald Trump lost Maine by more than 9 points. Cenk.
Yeah, so one thing I like about Platner, among others, is that he's willing to call out Susan Collins as an extreme right winger. For some reason, other Democrats are so pudding soft. I mean, I've now seen like 12 races against her, and they're all like, even though she's just a beautiful, great moderate, we just like to tweak her just a tiny bit. We're just like 2 inches to the left of her. That's not a real campaign. That's why they keep losing her. Her voting record is overwhelmingly pro-Trump. Platner's right. You can barely distinguish her voting record from Ted Cruz. But all the Democrats are like, oh, don't say that. Why wouldn't you say that? What's wrong with you? They're like, on top of everything else, like establishment Democrats are really not bright. And if they want to cry about that, I'm super happy to have them cry, right? You can't say that, we're the educated elite. Are you? All your education led to you being a dumbass who can't create a clear distinction between you and your opponent. So I've seen them make this mistake 1,000 times. In fact, it's a big part of my book, Justice is Coming. So this brother is not making that mistake. He's like, no, she's like Ted Cruz, okay? And that's what her voting record shows. That's a winning strategy, that's good politics. In terms of policy, I like all of his policies, but that is exactly why the Democratic donor class. Now, look, let me be clear about that. Because there are a bunch of Democratic donors who are good guys and who look at someone like him and go, hey, he might be able to beat Collins. I agree with him on abortion. I agree with him on universal health care. I agree with him on money out of politics. I agree, great, wonderful, right? And then there's about half of the Democratic donors, first of all the corporations, all the foreign governments, right? But then even once you get past that, there's still a big chunk of Democratic individual donors who are like, did you say you disagree with Israel? 2%, get out of here. I'll vote for a Republican. I don't care. I'll vote for Ted Cruz. I don't care. Israel, 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 Israel. If you're saying that doesn't exist, you're just wrong. So you can say, oh, well, you shouldn't say it even though it obviously exists. Okay, but my job is news. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you the truth. And then, but it's not just Israel. There's Democrats who are neoliberals and they believe that they should get tax cuts plus abortion rights, plus gay rights, right? And so if you're not in favor of tax cuts for the rich, or you're not in favor of serving for the rich, they're gonna vote for the Republican. They're not just gonna vote for the Republican. As we're showing you here, they're going to actually fundraise for the Republican. They're gonna give their money to the Republican to make sure that they defeat a Democrat. So one last thing about that portion of the story, I don't wanna hear any talk about unity, okay?
But no,
we're way past
more
that.
important.
And just
hold on, more important. Stop attacking us when we're critical of Democrats, okay? Like you should be more upset at people who have power to influence elections, including these Democratic donors.
No.
Stop coming for us. We do the news.
Yeah. But I mean, look, I'll go further than that. I mean, we said, as we supported Bernie and as we've supported populists on the left and in the Democratic Party for the last 20 years, or I'll speak for myself, as I've done that, we were always accused of being not sufficiently loyal to the Democratic Party.
Well, I'm not loyal to the Democratic Party.
Okay, so but now the people who made those accusations are busy fundraising for Republicans. So spare me your total and utter BS about who's the better Democrat. Oh, you should vote for Hillary Clinton. We did. Okay, are you happy? Okay, yeah. We told you she was a crap candidate. She was a crap candidate. She did lose. And so all of you ranting and raving about unity was always a lie. We were right about it.
So in our members only bonus episode today, I want to talk about just how pathetic some Democrats, and I'm talking about the politicians, have gotten in regard to essentially getting in bed with right-wingers, including Donald Trump. So Andrew Cuomo was pretty desperate in this mayoral race in New York City. In the bonus episode, I'm gonna tell you about who he's trying to ingratiate himself with. So if you wanna become a member, tyt.com/join and we'll talk about that.
One super quick last thing, because I just thought of it. Look guys, there's a theory out there among some on the left that, oh no, we could do an alliance with corporate Democrats and that's better than getting independent voters.
How has that ever worked out well?
Okay,
hasn't that been the case?
That is comically wrong strategy. Okay, because they're not even on your side, brother. What are they doing? The corporate Democrats have already run from the building and out there fundraising for Republicans. So come back to your senses. You have to be for the actual left, money out of politics, anti-war, etc. Good news, that's where all the independents are. Let's go get them and win an election, win many elections. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.